Good evening. Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome along to G-Star Vault, podcast 009, and I think 48 out of all G-Star Vaults. So welcome along. Hope you are all okay. If you're here in the UK, I hope you're not getting battered by the rain and the wind like I am right now, and we are in Plymouth. I am obviously in, I call it a cabin, but it's a summer house basically down the bottom of my garden. And I hope that the rain lashing against the glass isn't coming through on the live stream. If you are here with me, do say good evening and hi. I think we've already got, we've got someone in chat. Howdy to Mazza. Thank you for coming along. Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and all of those fantastic things. Evening, Mazza. Thank you for joining. Wow, this episode is called The Truth Is Out There Part 1, and I will explain why it's Part 1 in just a little bit. Before I get into anything, though, I just want to tell you about my amazing week, because I have really had an amazing week. And basically, it all started off with me, unfortunately turning 50. But you know, it's all good. I'm coming to terms with it. But certainly, everything that's happened this week has definitely helped. So, a couple of days before my actual birthday, I went away, or I had a day with all of my friends, and we went clay pigeon shooting in the morning. I've got some pictures to share. So this is me with shotgun in hand doing clay pigeon shooting. It was great fun. I love it. And loads of my friends came along, and I think everybody really enjoyed it as well. Then we had a spot of lunch at a pub, and then we did a bit of archery in the afternoon, which was fantastic. And luckily, given the great British weather, this part of the day was under shelter in a barn. But yeah, again, great to have all my friends along enjoying that. And then in the evening, there was a meal and there was cake, which was just amazing. And again, loads of my friends came along to that. So that was absolutely fantastic. Had a lot of amazing surprises on the actual day of my birthday. Had some surprise video calls with my host family in America and friends in America as well. So thank you to Annie and Bonnie and Frank and to Jen, all for joining them. That was absolutely fantastic. And then the day after my birthday, I got my very, very first tattoo. I lost my little girl, fur baby, back in October of last year. And so I'd always said that I was going to get her paw print, an actual genuine size paw print, tattooed to mark and remember Ellie by. And so here's a picture of that tattoo that I've had done. And I'm really, really pleased with it. And that was my very, very first ever tattoo. And then the great stuff throughout the week continued to happen, which was fantastic. I then went away and did some, what's this picture here? Oh, yes. So basically the other thing that's happened is we've also taken in a rescue dog. Her name, or the name that we've given her, is Luna. She's 4 years old. and she's not had the greatest of lives. And so she comes from a charity called Many Tears, and has really been overbred. The people that had her, they've got a lot to answer for, and so we're just trying to give her a home and make her feel comfortable and try to allow her to have the dog life that she deserves to have. And it's going to take time, so I'll keep you guys updated on the progress. So that was another big thing that happened this week. So you can't believe how much happened in a period of 1 week. And then I decided to go away camping in Billy the Bongo for the first time, the Underground Paradox machine. My other channel, the Underground Paradox, all the stuff that I do there, investigating the paranormal, primarily ufology and cryptozoology, I do on location. It's not studio based, so I'm always out and about. And I've now got a camper van, which I told you guys about, so hopefully you remembered that. And so, yeah, I went out for my first overnight and also investigation for an up-and-coming Underground Paradox episode. And it was really, really good. Sort of a lot of lessons learned. But I also have got a brilliant birthday present, and I took that with me as well, a new toy and piece of equipment, which is really going to help the location filming and stuff that I do for the Paradox. So I've just put a little short video together just as a bit of a teaser. Let you guys watch this and then try and figure out what the let me know in chat if you're with us, what basically you think the birthday present that I got was that I'm out using. But this is at me out filming in the last sort of 48 hours. So yeah, give it a watch. See, it's only about a minute long. Welcome to Weymouth Beach in Bude. There you go. So we've got some comments flowing through. So evening, Courtney. Good to see you. Thank you for the comment about the tattoo. That's awesome. Was there any guesses? Yes, we've got one Courtney guest, and he got it right. It was a drone. I have been a lucky boy and managed to, for my birthday, I got a DJI Neo drone, which is basically the size of my hand. You set it off from your hand, and it tracks you, it can follow you, you can just set it about, and then it's sort of, technology today, it's amazing, it just follows you, and you've got pre-programmed movements, and yeah, it's for somebody who's a bit of a dunce with this kind of sort of filming equipment, you know, absolutely excellent for me, because it's so autonomous, that, you know, but it's just going to make such a big difference. Geez. Courtney's just said in chat, just don't cause a Plymouth drone flap, lol. Yeah, no, I'll try not to. It's not got, I don't think, well, it's got a few lights on the front of it, but it doesn't generally give off any light, I don't think. And I would be extremely nervous about flying it at night time. anyway, but you could still create that flap with flying it around during the day, I guess, especially if I put like a bit of silver foil on it or something. Yeah, Maz is saying you could start a conspiracy. Yeah, certainly could. But it's amazing. And obviously I was out investigating for what is going to be the next episode of the Underground Paradox, which is going to be coming. You will have heard in the VT there that I said, welcome to Widemouth Beach in Bude. I was in the location of Bude, which is in North Cornwall, investigating based on a couple of reported sightings through MUFON that took place in 2019 and 2021. Grabbed my interest. I wanted to go to Bude, have a bit of a look, stay overnight, do a bit of night sky watching and day sky watching, and getting used to the drone. So I definitely got to get a little bit better, but I can definitely see the potential and how it's going to enrich the film work that I do for the Underground Paradox. But I had a really interesting experience both with the overnight camp, and then also I did capture something mysterious on camera that isn't easily explainable. I am waiting to see if I've got other footage, but I'm not going to say anything more. You can watch. Hopefully you guys are subscribed to my other YouTube channel, The Underground Paradox. If not, you will find a link in the description to this video to take you there. Please do subscribe, and then you can find out all about it in the next up and coming episode on The Underground Paradox. So yeah, it's been a busy week, busy weekend, and I'm still here with you guys tonight. I pre-prepped all of this episode just before all of that shenanigans began, so hopefully, but it's been a while since I've sort of revisited the content, so please do bear with me if I'm sort of struggling to remember what exactly it is that I'm meant to be talking about. But thank you for coming along, everybody. Hope you are all really well, as I said at the start of the live podcast. If you are here with us, please do give us a like. It really does make a difference. And, just say hello if you would be so brave, just to let us know that you're here and that you're watching and become part of the discussion. Okay, so that was my week. Let's talk about, before we get into the main part of this evening, I'll explain a little bit about what this episode is about. If you've been watching these live podcasts, you will have heard me mention that I had this sort of kind of idea for doing an episode on what I was going to entitle The Age of Deception. Instead of that, what I've kind of decided to do, because there's so much content that can be covered, it can also be categorized, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it to you over a course of a few live podcasts, dropping in and out on it when I feel so it's going to be kind of like a series. The truth is out there. Am I pointing the right way? The truth is out there. This is part one. Next live podcast that I do won't necessarily be part two. Part two will be down the line, and we'll drop in and out, just because, as I said, there was so much I feel that is content on this. But for tonight, we are in part one. We're going to concentrate on the category of sensationalism. That's what we're going to be looking at tonight, and just what an impact it has on, I guess, the whole world and any kind of data or information processing that's done by anyone. But primarily, I'm obviously keenly focused on how it affects different categories of the paranormal, unexplained, thought-provoking, strange, all of that. So, cryptozoology, ufology, how all of these behaviors and how we as a species communicate, and the things that we do that damage. So, so I'm now blabbering, but before we get into the main frame of tonight's show, I just wanted to share a couple or a few updates, and that primarily was now just let me bring myself back to the live stream. I've got to share something with you, and again, this is sort of will also warm us up a little bit for the main content of the show. But I'm pretty sure that you've all heard, and what I thought I'd do is last G-Star Vault I had Monty guesting with me, and we were talking also on the Monty Zone that we did for January/February, and we've got another Monty Zone coming up next Friday. we were kind of talking about Egypt a little bit and the fact that we haven't come back to the subject in quite a while. So I thought I would give a couple of teasers on that, just and a few updates. So hopefully this is coming up on the stream now, or I'm sharing this on screen. Yeah, perfect. Let me take myself out of the mix. Right, perfect. So this is something that's come about, that's about the real age of the Sphinx in Egypt. And I'm sure that you all kind of know that there's been this theory kicking around for quite a while that the Sphinx originally was a kind of stereotypical dog that you see in a lot of Egyptian hieroglyphs, and that's what the original statue was. But that's not what I'm talking about really here. This is about the history of dating the age of the Sphinx and how they believe that the Sphinx is a lot older than what known science and archaeology now tells us it is. So unlike the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx is not made up of individual blocks. It is one piece of stone carved directly out of limestone bedrock. This means that there's not any organic materials, wood, cloths, metals that can be used to accurately date the time of the stone was carved. Traditionally, it's been believed by Egyptologists that the Sphinx is approximately 4,500 years old. Traditional Egyptologists link the age of the Sphinx to the pharaoh Khafre, for it is believed that Khafre is the face that the Sphinx supposedly resembles. There is no hieroglyphic evidence linking the Sphinx to Khafre, but there is some archaeological evidence. Linking the Sphinx to Khafre dates all the way back to 1853 to the research of Auguste Meret, and Auguste unearthed a life-size statue of Khafre amid the ruins of the temple adjacent to the Sphinx, and this temple would later be called the Valley Temple. Khafre had 4 26-foot-long Sphinx constructed during this time, 2 in front of each entrance of his Valley temple. Khafre, who lived from 2603 to 2578 BC, is also given credit for the second tallest pyramid built at Giza. And it's all about what's brought this about, questioning the age, is about water erosion. So recently, many geologists have been looking at the erosion patterns on both the body of the Sphinx and the surrounding walls on the Sphinx enclosure. Leading this geological study on the erosion patterns is Dr. Robert M. Shaw, who earned his PhD in geology and geophysics at the Yale University in 1983. Dr. Shaw and others believe that the water erosion patterns couldn't have happened in the dry Egyptian climate, but must have happened when the Egyptian climate was much rainier. This theory would push the construction of the Sphinx back to between 10,000 and 12,000 BC, twice as old as mainstream archaeologists believe. So it goes on to explain about the sort of water erosion. But, you know, I will put links in the description of the show to that if you want to go and check it out and find out a little bit more about that story. But I thought that was really, really interesting and definitely worth keeping apprised with what's going on there. Let's have a look at, we've got some stuff in comments. So we've got stuff on DC for this. Evening to you. And we've got Mickey Aquariums. Hi, buddy. How are you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming along. And please don't forget to like the stream. That would be awesome. And we've got Kevin as well. Hi. Hi to you, Kevin. Great to see you. And same to you as to everybody else. Please give me that thumbs up. That really, really helps. But great to see everybody along. Right. So I've got one more thing to share. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't looked into this greatly, but it caught my attention because if, well, I know it's true. It's definitely a case that it's true, but I think we need to find out a lot more information and another one to keep our eyes on. So let me share my screen again. So yeah, this one is about, and I said it sounds almost like a script of a film, a recent film actually, The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise. But yeah, it's a bit of a crazy story. There's a lot of names in there that are quite known figures within the world of Egyptologists, but the tomb of an unknown queen is unearthed at Saqqara. Now, if you don't know what Saqqara is, the area of Saqqara, there's a pyramid there, and it's one of the earliest pyramids that were built in the same design as the pyramids of Giza, but a much earlier version, because a lot of the earlier, another earlier dynasty in Egyptian history, the pyramids were actually built slightly different. They were like slabs on top of, full slabs on top of one, smaller ones on top of each other to create that pyramid shape. Whereas in a later dynasty, they started building pyramids where, there was elements of the inside that were hollow and empty. And the pyramid at Saqqara was one of the earliest versions of them and predates the pyramids of Giza. So in this area of Egypt, they on a 100-year anniversary of unearthing King Tutankhamun's tomb, archaeologists discover hundreds of tombs and mummies buried in Saqqara. Egyptian archaeologists rewrite history with the discovery of a tomb of a previously unknown queen. The New Kingdom tomb of Queen Neith, along with a cache of 300 coffins and 100 mummies, was unearthed at ancient necropolis at Saqqara. The latest finds from the team of archaeologists working at the ancient area of Saqqara, I'm not going to try and say that word again, include the tomb of a previously unknown Egyptian queen, as well as the new trove of 300 coffins, over 100 mummies and other antiquities. The discoveries were made not far from Cairo and follow the recent unearthing of objects related to King Teti and the sarcophagus of King Ramesses II, treasurer. Earlier this year, the Egyptian authorities also announced that the tomb of the royal dignitary has been found at the site. For the past 2 years, archaeologists have been working at Saqqara and the archaeological site at Giza, about 20 miles south of Cairo. The latest cache of mummies likely contains the remains of Tutankhamun's generals and advisors. Even more intriguing is a pyramid that experts now believe was dedicated to an ancient queen who is being identified for the first time. So it's really interesting, this story, because it's kind of rewriting elements of the storyline of Egyptian history. So it's just another really good example of how we're unearthing new things all the time that will change the facts, and that's why we have to keep our minds open to new facts and possibilities, and not always stay rigid in what is the now and the known, because that can change. So again, I will put a link to that in the description, so you guys can have a bit of a squiz at that if that grabs your interest. And hopefully in one of the up and coming Monty Zone soon, we will be touching again on some mysterious stuff and going a little bit deeper into some Egyptian updates. So getting back to, let me just have a bit of a drink. Sorry for the branding. One of the other lovely gifts that I got for my birthday was a Coca-Cola fridge, which I have put into my little studio, and it is currently filled with bottles of Coke. So yeah, handy to grab and handy to drink whilst I'm doing my live streams. So do excuse the branding. Anyway, so getting on to sensationalism and this sort of category of, looking, because the whole reason is, I've said before that my status in this whole sort of thing is that I want to believe, and I also believe that the truth is out there, and you just got to keep looking for it. But you just can't, especially these days, you can't accept everything that you read or see or hear, and you have to look into it in a little bit more detail. You have to go and find the original source material, and that can sometimes take a very long time in our current modern day and age with social media and so many different platforms, that to actually try and find the original source material is a journey. I love doing it. That's part of what I love about my investigating, but I urge everybody to kind of do that. And I'm sure some of you probably do. But the thing is, I find myself banging on about this sort of thing because it does frustrate me, because what it does is it dilutes, or whatever word you want to use, it dilutes or it pollutes the whole chance of people giving these areas of study and investigation credibility. If you take things like I've said before, in the world of like Sasquatch and Bigfoot, there's probably 98.5% of the evidence is, complete and utter rubbish. And then there's a lot that is good. The amount that is good would take you far too long, like days and days, to explain. So that's the reason why it's still worthwhile continuing to investigate, continuing to believe. But there's, of that sort of other 90 odd 8% of the stuff that is not genuine, a lot of it is purposefully not genuine. And that's the stuff that angers me. The stuff that's accidental or misidentified, that's not a problem. And that's why it's interesting investigating. And, people share this kind of content, and they don't mean to kind of fake anybody or kind of hoax. It's just that they've caught something and, they've kind of got excited and misidentified, potentially what it is. But there's a lot of stuff out there that's really damaging, that is intentionally made to deceive people. They're very deceptive and create a reaction from people. What's Mickey said here? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Well, so Mickey's picked up on a really good detail about that story that I was sharing about the Queen, because it was a good couple of years back that they actually discovered it, but they're only now revealing it and talking about it. But I guess if you know the inner workings of the Cairo and Egyptologist community, I think that plays a part in that, in terms of, it's got to go through so many things about saying who it belongs to and all this kind of stuff. So maybe that slowed it down, and it's a lot slower to kind of deal with these things in Cairo because of their crazy backwater kind of system there. But good point, Mickey. And then what have we got? A comment here from Kevin, sorry. With new technology, I think we're in for new discoveries all over the world. They can see through the jungle and deserts now. Yeah, exactly. I think you joined just a little bit too late, Kevin, but I was sharing, please do go back and watch it after the live is finished. But I was sharing a sort of sneak peek into some recent filming that I've been doing for the Underground Paradox and my content there. Yeah, that sort of relates a little bit to what you were saying there in your comment. So I've decided to call this one Sensationalism because I want to sort of concentrate on that first. And I guess, sensationalism within humans has been around since probably the beginning of time and the beginning of humanity, really. And back then we used to call it myth and legend. There's an element of storytelling that, you've got to, part of the story, if you're telling a good story, it's about creating that excitement, it's about creating the action, those sad moments, those romantic moments. So you're looking in a story to get some emotional reaction. So I think, if you sort of go back to like kind of myths and legend and how they worked, I was talking about this with Mazza last night. We were out in Billy the Bongo, actually having dinner in the camper van on Dartmoor, and we were talking about this a little bit, and I was basically, I've kind of lost my train of thought now, thinking about the hot pot last night. Somebody remind me what I was talking about then. But I was kind of saying that, myths are created in the same way, the same things that we're seeing now with the sensationalism. A myth, that I believe there's always an original source to a myth or a legend. Something, if you go all the way back to its roots, you'll find an element of truth. But that truth could be, for example, say rewind, 1500 years ago. There's an early Viking in a Viking longboat out to sea and sees a killer whale, and basically goes home and tells his family or his tribe about it and says, I saw the sea monster. It had this big horn that stuck out of its back and blah, blah, blah. And then the people in that village then tell the story to the next village, and all of a sudden it's not that it had one horn on its back, which was a fin, but it was then 3 horns. And this is how myths and legends evolve. But if you go back, I do always feel feel, and let me know in comments if you think the same way, that myth and legends have a sort of rooted truth, somewhere where they came from. But, you know, as we all know, with things like Chinese whispers, as we call it these days, stories evolve and change. Now, whether for right or wrong, there is an element that, you know, as storytellers, we want to outdo. It's about that shock factor. It's about that creating interest and excitement in the person that you're telling the story to. So you may want to take a detail and then layer on top of it. And, you know, we see that as well right now, and we have seen for the last sort of 50 years, tabloids, newspapers, in competition with each other. They've got to get sell their newspaper or their publication. So the story needs to be more intense than the person next to them that made the story. A really good example of that, and a pretty bloody awful one actually. And this isn't to do with the paranormal, funny and a bit random, but I was watching a documentary about Boyzone the other night, and you know, if you're watching from America or anywhere else in the world, Boyzone was a boy band back in the 90s, and one of the members died, and he had come out as gay, you know, not too I think it was about a year before he died. And when he died, you know, let me start off by saying that he died of natural causes. He was on holiday in I think it was Portugal. And again, this is another example of how stories go wrong with people trying to remember the facts. But I think it was Portugal. And anyway, he died of natural causes, but the papers all of a sudden, before any of the autopsy or facts came out, the papers jumped here on the UK and Europe. They jumped on the story and said that he would gone out on some massive drug bin, some gay crazy sex fest, and died from overdose. And as the week or so that went on before the actual findings of his autopsy were released, these stories just went worse and worse and worse because of each newspaper trying to outdo the other newspaper and get more readers and buyers to buy their publication. And you know, when then it was revealed that he had died of natural causes, I mean, it just made these newspapers look sodding awful. And, you know, it just goes to show you how grim it can get in the world of especially commercial media. But now, you know, fast forward into 2020s, we have the world of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X as it's called now, and what's the new one that's come up? There's just, you know, new ones all the time, and there's just such an information highway and a data highway. And the thing is, people are always trying to now, instead of sales on publications, it's become about likes and hits and subscribes and algorithms and things like that. And you know, it creates this sort of worsening, I feel, that because the gateways have been opened, right? Because, you know, back in the day, if you rewind about 40 years, we had maybe 10 or 12 main publication newspapers in the UK. You didn't have any internet. You didn't have whatever. You got your information, your news from there. But now it's all around us, everywhere we look. It's on our iPad, our TV, our laptop, our whatever. And still people read newspapers and they still sell. You know, these stories now come from everywhere, and they're with us every single moment of the day, because if you're Gen X like me, you barely probably put your phone down half the time, and so you've always got something in your hand that's telling you a piece of information or a piece of news or something like that. And it's, you know, it's got to the point where it's got so out of control. And this is my moment just to say, if you're reading anything, you really have to not just take it as fact anymore, and you have to go away and find that root source. So I've got some examples. So again, I'll think about the source on this one. It was Facebook, right? And basically there was this post on Facebook, can't remember where it was from, but it said, scientists have successfully achieved teleportation. And, you know, it then had a picture of like this human body and a beam of light, and, you know, instantly you thought, scientists have successfully managed to achieve teleportation. This is big news. This is huge news. And so I'm being sarcastic there, obviously. And I so thought, right, well, let's go and check this out. And before I tell you about my findings, let's have a look at some of the comments that we've got in there. Kevin says, have you been scaring Mazza on the moors in the back of that camper van? No, it wasn't like that. Ludacris was there as well, so there was the three of us, but it was more about cowboy hot pot and country music and good conversation and chat with friends. But and then Kevin says, yeah, I agree. Every tale has truth to it somewhere down the line. Thank you, Kevin. And I thought he committed suicide. Never knew that. No, he didn't. He had an abnormality of the heart, which they didn't know about. They do now, and actually his sister, now that he died of it, his sister's been tested and she's got the same thing, and it can cause this abnormality, this condition can cause fluid to flow back into the lungs, and so that's how he died. But, you know, again, I was just interested in the documentary. I like kind of, you know, recently, I mean, I've just turned 50. I've been nostalgic for the 80s and 90s. So I was watching this documentary, but I just thought it was horrendous how he was treated. And some of the family and some of the stories, it was just awful. It just goes to show you where, in a world of where I believe storytelling is amazing, storytelling's just become so toxic because of how media now manages it. But yeah, you know, there was a whole wake for him in Ireland, and all the press were there, and his mother said to them, all the press, his coffin was in the house, and all the press were saturating the outside of the house and not giving them the space for the ceremony. And so she said to them, oh, do you want to come in and pay your respects? And they all like really started rushing towards the door and really interested. And she said, but you've got to leave your cameras out here. And then as a result, none of them actually walked through the door, because they couldn't take their cameras to film anything. And that was just, imagine it's her mother on the last day putting her son in the ground, and you know, they do that. So yeah, but go and check out the documentary. Where was it on? It was on I want to say Now TV. Oh, Sky documentaries. You can go and check it out there. We've got a comment from Mazza here. More like my partner scaring me, and G running around outside the van in the dark, blowing his death whistle. Yes, he was. Yeah, so it's good fun night, and ace food as well. So yeah, all good fun. And it's nice getting out in Billy Bongo, and it's going to make a great addition for going out filming for the Underground Paradox as well. And I might do some stuff for the Vault as well that features, but you can just check it out on the Underground Paradox anyway. Right, so let me get to what the actual story behind the teleportation actually was. Let's find out the facts. And I think I've got a picture here somewhere. So I've got to do my share screen again. Here we go. And so, oops, no, I'm on the wrong screen. So the actual fact of what we're talking about here was the first distributed quantum algorithm brings quantum supercomputers closer. So what's happened is, in a milestone that brings quantum computing tangibly closer to large-scale practical use, scientists at the Oxford University Department of Physics have demonstrated the first instance of distributing quantum computing using a photonic network interface. They successfully linked two separate quantum processors to form a single, fully connected quantum computer, paving the way to tackling computational challenges previously out of reach. The results have been published in Nature. And it goes on to tell the story. Although quantum teleportation of states has been achieved previously, this study is the first demonstrating of quantum teleportation of logical gates across a network link. According to the researchers, this could lay the groundwork for a future quantum internet, where distant processors could form an ultra-secure network for communication, computation, and sensing. Leading this study was Dougal Main, the Department of Physics, and this is them working on this this sort of algorithm quantum computer. So it's a form of teleportation for sure, but again, if you had read the post on Facebook, what they're saying is scientists have been able to achieve teleportation. Correct. But then the imagery that goes with it, and sorry, I don't have, I wish I could share that with you, but I'm sure you kind of believe me, you know, really highly suggested that, you know, it was human or a physical object that had been teleported. And, you know, I just feel that what worries me is there is a lot of suggestible people out there, and there's a lot of people that will have seen that post on Facebook and now be going around saying, oh no, yeah, but hold on, I've read somewhere that scientists have already managed to achieve teleportation, so it's actually happening now. And this is how misconceptions, you know, get and it's sensationalism. It's taking a truth that has got some truth rooted in it and then bolting some sensationalism on top of it and misconstruing it and twisting it into something that is a different reality. Shouldn't say that, start getting into the multiverse and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, sorry, the comments are coming thick and fast. I know I've said it several times throughout the show, but if you are watching, please don't forget to give me that lovely thumbs up and a like. It is good to see you all. But what comments we got here? Oh, evening to Sean. Thank you for dropping along. Sorry, only joining now. Not a problem, buddy. But you might want to go and check out the beginning of the show, my little cool video, or I'll share it on the messenger group. A little summary of my last 48 hours out with my new toy, which is DJI Neo drone. What's Kevin said? Telson Einstein supposedly done an experiment with time travel. I think it was USS Philadelphia, if I'm correct. Yes, that's correct, and that's slightly away from the area of teleportation. That was supposedly more, I think you hit it on the head there, it was more about dimensional movement and time travel than actual teleporting an object. It's called spin, yeah. But the thing is, it's now its own beast, it's its own monster, and the fact of it is that it's so everywhere, right? So here's another story, right? So apparently the James Webb Telescope has detected an exoplanet that is 20 light years away and has habitable life on it, or has the possibility of habitable life. And, you know, it's only 20 light years away. True or false? Put in comments right now whether you think that is there any truth to it. If you think there is some truth to it, put some in comments. If you think it's fake completely, then put fake. If you think it's true, give me a truth in the comments. I'll give it a little bit of time. We had another comment there from Kevin Mazza. He needs to be careful out there in the dark. That was a scary sound, though. That, what was it called? The death whistle. Yeah. I never even heard of one of them before. That's bad, isn't it? I should really know that. But yeah, give us your thoughts and comments about. Is there? I bet everybody's furiously googling now, going. So there's scientists have discovered, or the James Webb Telescope has discovered an exoplanet that is only 20 light years away from Earth, and that is in the habitable zone in its solar system, and is capable of containing water and hosting life. We've got a true-ish, no effing idea from Mazza. Mickey says true, seen it on TikTok, so it must be real. Stealth Steve says true. I wonder if there was a few people googling it all of a sudden going, yeah. But let's get something up about this. We'll read the facts, shall we? Because this comes from Oxford's website, which is interesting. The first thing to be interested about that story, because as I said, I kind of gave you the story as I first heard it, and how I first heard it was that it came from James Webb Telescope, but it didn't come from James Webb Telescope. So an international team has confirmed the discovery of a super Earth orbiting in the habitable zone nearby a sun-like star. The planet was originally detected 2 years ago by Oxford University scientists. This was published on 2025 from Oxford's university's website. And the scientist's name is Dr. Michael Kretingner. I'm just going to say that. This result, drawing on over 2 decades of observations, opens a window to future studies of Earth-like exoplanets that may have conditions suitable for life. The findings have been published in Astronomy and Astrophysics. The new planet is named HD 20794d and has a mass 6 times that of Earth and orbits a star similar to our Sun, located just 20 light years away. Its orbit places it within the habitable zone of the system, meaning it is at the right distance from its star to sustain liquid water on its surface, a key ingredient of life as we know it. Now, Dr. Michael Kretingner first identified a candidate exoplanet signal in 2022. So this all comes from whilst analysing archived data recording by HARPS, which is a high accuracy radar velocity planet searcher spectrograph at La Silla Observatory in Chile, which I think was used by SETI for a while. This data analyzes the light absorbed and emitted by objects. Dr. Kretingner spotted distinct periodic shifts in the spectrum of light emitted by the host star, which could have been caused by the gravitational pull of a nearby planet due to the faintness of the signal. However, it is not clear whether this was caused by a planet induced by the star itself or due to an instrument error. To verify the signal, the international team analysed highly precise measurements recorded over 2 decades by HARPS and its successor Expresso, also in Chile. These instruments are among the most advanced in the world and measuring tiny variations in light spectra. And I've got a little video to share actually of the orbit of this planet, and hopefully it doesn't get rid of the article in the background. So the planet that we're looking at is the one that's going to circle in that green line. So what's really interesting about it, although it sits in, it's got a really strange orbit. It's not circular like most orbits. It's almost like egg-shaped. So at one point, just going back to that, I'll just play it again. Oh, I didn't realize I still got that comment up. I'm sorry. Distracting, that's been there all that time. You can see there's a big part of its orbit where it's outside of the habitable zone. So straight away that gives a lot of big questions as to whether it could truly be classified as being in a habitable zone, because it sits in that Goldilocks zone for part of its orbit, but not all of it. And that article that I was sharing on screen just a moment, which again, I will put a link eventually after the show in the description, so you can go and check it out. It goes on to explain that. So in terms of the way that this story is sold, again, have they discovered an exoplanet? Yes, they have. Is it 20 light years away? Yes, it is. But where they've put it in the habitable zone, there's a big question mark against that. So it's not as crystal clear as what it's been sensationalized later on to kind of, you know, explode the story and make it much more exciting and dramatic to draw people in, right? So before I get on to my next thing, let's just look at some of the other comments we've got. Amazing what information they get from these telescopes and pictures. Don't they find planets like this a lot? They certainly have in the last sort of 5 to 8 years, especially with the introduction of James Webb's telescope. So even when I saw the original story title and it said James Webb Telescope Exoplanet, I thought, well, yeah, that is very plausible. But when I then dug a little deeper, to be surprised that it wasn't even, and again, it's just somebody obviously writing that title, writing that story, who's not bothered to actually do their job as any kind of journalist or any person who should be sharing news and headlines with people. you know, they've obviously not done the research, and they've just thought, well, if it's an exoplanet, it's obviously James Webb, but it wasn't. It was these things that they do it more on space signals and sound signals. What's really interesting about that article is they also do later go on to describe how they've looked at the light emanating from the planet and how certain areas of it fluctuates, which again, they haven't got an immediate scientific explanation as to what's making those light patterns. But again, you've got to remember that we're seeing it 20 light years after the fact. So there's some more really interesting stuff in that article. So again, when you come back to check out those links that I always do put them in the description. I just don't put them in before I go live because I don't want people to be able to access the content of the show before the show. But I do always put them in there. And if you do pop back to check them out, and by all means, you can still also explore it yourself. But do pop a comment into there, because comments after the live really do help as well. I've got a big comment here from Mazza. It was cloudy on the moor while we were out on the van. Couldn't see the stars and the moon, which made it a bit disorientating as everything was completely pitch black. Yeah, she's absolutely right. We'd stayed outside for a while to let our eyes adjust, and then when we did, it did help a little bit, but gosh, it was so overcast on the moors last night. And I'd said to them, where we were at that time was quite low level, because we were actually on the level of, we went out to Burrator Reservoir, and we were actually on the sort of, lower level of the actual reservoir itself. And I said, it's obviously coming foggy, which is, very, very common on Dartmoor. And as we were driving out, and you've got to then go up elevation to drive out and get to higher ground, we then got stuck in this, it was really thick fog. So I was right, fog, but it was so overcast when we stepped out of the van, because there's no natural light, there's no street lights there or anything. It's just everything looked pitch black, absolutely everything. No fact checking. I don't know what you mean by that, Kevin. Northwest England has a beautiful, dark, clear skies. Oh, right. Good to know where you are, Kevin. I think, you're up in Ben's part of the world, aren't you? Am I right in thinking Yorkshire? Let us know. But yeah, so let's go on to my last sensationalized story. And that is, and this is really hot off the press, and I'm sure most of you have heard about this one. So there's an asteroid called 2024, some numbers, ZRD or something, that is going to hit planet Earth in 2032. Right. Have you heard this story? Let me know in comments whilst I pick up whatever it was that fell down there, because I'm kind of worried that it was my drone. I'll worry about that after the show. But yeah, let me know in chat if you've heard or read the story about the asteroid that is going to hit planet Earth in 2032. Now, this one is quite comical, really, really funny, just how, as I said, it's hot off the press. The first time I read this story was about 7 days ago. Now, it may have been existing longer than that, but I've been tracking it for 7 days, and it's quite humorous and comical how much it has changed in the portion of 7 days. Like, it's actually almost been like sitting back and watching sensationalism and a really good example of Chinese whispers, or just people polluting and toxicating the actual story. And again, just to achieve sensationalism, just to be more dramatic than the last post or the last person or the last company that posted something, and to get the most likes and hits and subscribes and everything like that. And so, yeah, I'm sure most of you have heard, or if you haven't heard of it, let's find out what the real information is. Well, anyway, I've got this information, and then I'll talk to you about how it's evolved, or how I've watched it evolve over the last 7 days. And this actually, so when I first came across the story and it said, this asteroid, because you get a lot of this, and they've kicked around for several years, stories about asteroids ever since we kind of all got into Armageddon, and I can't remember what the name of the other film was. somebody wants to remind me in comments, I'll be ever so grateful. But you know, we've become a bit obsessed with this concept of asteroids. So it's not the first time that stories of this ilk have appeared in the media and out there in the ether. But when I came across this, I thought, right, let's do the fact checking. Let's go and see. So this is from NASA, and it talks about NASA smashed an asteroid. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong story. Come back to that in a minute. I forgot I had another one. So basically, the story went that when I originally read it, and I think it's out there, and I don't actually have it, but it's on NASA's website, because it is NASA that have discovered this and talk about it. But there's about a 0.5% chance. So originally, when this was first shared about 2 years ago, there was a 0.5% chance of this asteroid hitting planet Earth. And within the last 2 years, because of the way in which the orbit moves, they've been able to redo their mathematics from satellites and probes that they've got out in space. And that percentage has actually increased to 2%. So there's 98% chance that this asteroid will never hit anywhere on Earth. And there's now a 2% chance, as far as NASA are revealing at the moment, a 2% chance that it'll hit. Now, even NASA has said that right now, this asteroid is heading away. It's on its, again, elliptical orbit, but it's heading away from Earth at the moment. And whilst it's heading away and it's on that part of its orbit, it's a lot more difficult for our scientists and all of our guys at NASA to kind of, do absolutely accurate mathematics around it. They can do a lot of guesswork. So until it starts coming back round in that direction, they'll be able to use a lot more accurate measurements. So it may change. They've said that it may move from 2%, it may reduce again, or it may increase. But right now, that's where it is. And for at least a good couple of years, this asteroid is going to be going further out from us. So it's going to be more and more difficult to make any adjustments to that publicized story from NASA and those facts. But in the last 7 days, I've seen that go from 2% to 5% to 10% in some posts and stories shared on YouTube, videos that have come up on YouTube of people saying, massive warning, asteroid is going to hit the Earth. It's gone then, the latest one, most recently, I think yesterday, I saw that it's now 1 in 5 chance that this asteroid is going to hit Earth. And what it seems like every single time you see the story, the mathematics and the chances of it hitting Earth are going up and up and up. And it's just to create that sensationalism and create that excitement and that buzz. Now, some people might look at it from one angle and say that's harmless, but there's a lot of people out there that, again, talking about the earlier story that I was talking about, that are susceptible, they're vulnerable, they will get washed away with that, and they will start worrying and panicking and making crazy decisions because they say, well, it's out there, it's on the internet, you can read it, look, this is going to hit us in a few years time. And it's gone a bit crazy, and it's almost like you can watch it evolve day by day, which I find hilarious. But there was another story about an asteroid, which just popped up on screen then, and I forgot to say it. So I'll just give you away quickly. So basically, as part of what one of the story sources that were talking about this asteroid hitting the Earth, they basically mentioned that it's okay because NASA has already, they've already successfully landed on an asteroid and deflected it by blowing it up, basically, like we see them do in Armageddon, the film, right? And this is one of the things that was written there. So I was like, is that real? Like, literally, that's a very bold thing to say. Let's go fact check. And I'll reveal the fact check in a minute. Let's just go to some comments because they've been coming through thick and fast. So I heard 2029 or 2036, the asteroid is going to pass very close. No, it's 2032. And the thing is, just giving you some other facts, the asteroid is quite small in terms of, it's not a planet killer. It's, I think, about the size of a car or a house. It will do significant damage. It could, be equivalent to like a sort of nuclear bomb and take out like a whole city. And again, what's the other funny thing? So there was a story that came out that said that scientists have worked out that there's two possible places where this asteroid would land. One of them, I think, was Osaka in Japan. And then yesterday I saw an article where they were saying there's 12 possible candidates now of cities that could be hit by the asteroid. And again, it's just people layering numbers and just making it more dramatic and more dramatic. And that is the pollution, that is the toxicity of social media and how our world of data and information movement is so damaged right now. And until we sort of really reflect as a species, we're in a lot of danger, because there's things that have happened in the last sort of 10 years. And again, I'm not going to start getting political, but there's things that have happened in the last 10 years that would never have happened in the world pre-internet. And it is just because of how our information and what we're exposed to can be so controlled now, so controlled, so manipulated, and way more than any time in human history, as far as I'm concerned. It's always been part of human nature to disinform people, keep people in the dark. Governments and militaries have their secrets. That's undeniable. That's the nature of how they work, right? They've got to keep their secrets to themselves and keep it out of other militaries' eyes and hands. But, we've never been, I don't think, let me know if you agree in chat, in comments, whether we are in that period of our human history where it's as bad as it's ever been, the information highway, and just how toxic and polluted it is, and how difficult it is to really source some of the truth. A lot of people can say, well, you can go and Google it, but it's not as simple as that, because when you do Google something, a lot of the time you'll get so many different options come up, and a good percentage of them are ones that are not containing the information that is true and honest and the one that you're looking for. And a lot of the time, certainly with certain subjects, you have to really go down the rabbit hole to actually find the truth. What have we got here? Wiki says, evening to Wiki, by the way, if I forgot to say what's evening so far. There was an earlier comment. Musk wants to get a man to Mars. I think it's much higher priority. It's going to happen sooner than later. Yeah, and again, it's just all being done in totally the wrong way as far as I'm concerned. But it will be a leap for mankind if we achieve it. But it's just such a shame that it's going to be probably done in the way that he's doing it. And then there was a comment about, almost happened just over a century ago in Tunguska. Yes, it did. I was talking again about Tunguska last night to Maz, and also talking about the area in the Gulf of Mexico. That's where the crater is that proves that there was an asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, and it was a global killer. LOL, they can't even predict the weather 100%, but they can predict where the asteroid's going to land. Yeah, no, they can't. Again, if you go and read the original source from NASA, and I will find you the original source, and I will try and put the links in the description, or you can just go to NASA's website yourself and look it up. But they basically go on to say that they wouldn't even be willing to confirm or say where they think it's going to land at the moment, because it would be such a strong mathematical guess. Stuff on Steve, the movie, maybe don't look up. Yeah, and again, so going back to what I was saying, there was this story about NASA have successfully managed to land on an asteroid, put a bomb on there and blow it up. Whereas actually what has happened, and I think I can go back to share my screen, or I don't know if I completely closed it down. Let me just check. I think I closed it down, so let's just open it up again. And then let me share my screen. This is why I need a producer on the show somebody can do all this stuff for me, that would be amazing. Right, hopefully that's now coming up on your guys' screen. Yep, awesome. NASA smashed an asteroid with a rocket. The debris could hit Mars. So it is actually really interesting. This one shocked me. A test to protect Earth from asteroids unleashed a swarm of boulders. A new study suggests that there may be some unintended consequences, though. So in the future, if nothing is done to stop it, an asteroid much larger than a football stadium will crash into a planet. Should it hit a city, it would annihilate it much like a non-radioactive nuclear bomb. There are 25,000 asteroids, roughly 460 feet long, blah, 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 blah. So this mission was called DART, that was done by NASA. It's Double Asteroid Redirection Test Mission, humanity's first ever planetary defense experiment, and it was hailed a huge success. But it produced some surprising after effects, including a swarm of boulders that were found enveloping Morpheus several months post-impact. These relatively small boulders posed no threat to Earth, but scientists did wonder where they might eventually end up. So it wasn't fully successful, but they managed to direct this missile towards this asteroid and cause enough of an explosion that they sort of basically moved it. And I think, is that where it's saying that they moved it up 1,000 feet? But yeah, so really, really interesting that there was actually some truth to that story, but the way that the story was originally penned that I saw, and again, a good example of either sensationalism or, you know, that kind of concept of Chinese whispers, you know, that it's then become like, oh, they've landed on an asteroid and, you know, almost penning it like the Armageddon film, and, you know, that they drilled into it and planted a bomb, and they just directed a missile, but it's been successful, and they managed to this asteroid was never going to hit Earth. They just selected it because they wanted to then monitor it and see if they could change its direction, and they did manage to change its direction, so that was hailed as a success. So, but it still surprised me. Hi Wookie. Good one to wrap this show up on, but you know, watch out for that sensationalism. There is some truth in some of what is said, but you've got to look hard, but do that fact check. I'm sure you guys always do in some way or another, but it's not even become as easy as just to Google it now. You've got to look, and sometimes a book helps as well. Sorry, I'm Gen X, and there is still great information and data in books. So yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. This first part one of The Truth is out there, and we'll continue to look for the truth in future episodes, but the next episode won't necessarily be about The Truth is out there. I've really enjoyed doing this one for you guys, even though it's been a crazy busy week. For those of you that came later, please do check out the beginning of the show and check out that teaser video that I've got put out there for Underground Paradox. That stuff's coming up. Again, thank you guys for joining, and I will see you. I don't think I'll be back for a G-Star Vault next Sunday because we're doing the Monty Zone next Friday. So I'm back with Monty on Friday at 8 p.m. So that's this next Friday coming up. And then don't forget to tune in to the awesome Star Trek review show and join those guys there. Hopefully I'll be able to join that show. I had to miss this week again because of that crazy week that I was telling you about, but yeah, so thank you to everyone for joining. I'll see you next time. Keep an eye on the community thread so you know when the next G-Star Vault is coming, and big love to you all. Keep safe and keep dry, and I'll see you next time. Good night.